353. And Karen, go right ahead.
Well, yeah, as I said, we will be continuing. I'll preview the next segment. I saw the hand go up from the studio. I wasn't sure if we were going to... Okay, well, just to preview the next segment, I'll let our listeners know, of course, we are continuing with this topic, and we are going to be joined, of course, firstly by the team leader in St. Peter with the Democratic National Alliance, Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, and we'll also be joined by Ms. Germaine P. Lewis, who is aspiring to run in the All Saints East and St. Luke constituency with the Antigua Labour Party. So we're switching gears for a bit. We wanted to also continue this topic, but to get a perspective from persons who are politically active. Because really and truly, Paula, it's honestly, most of the times it's the parties that actually get out and encourage persons to go and get registered.
Mm-hmm.
So it's essential to get the view of politically active persons as well as to the importance of voting.
Indeed, and we just want to remind the folks of what's coming up on Connecting with Dave Lester Payne for Tuesday, 11th of January, 2022. 11 days, since New Year's Day. Right. From 2 to 4, it's Alistair Thomas. He's a community activist and the United Progressive Party's candidate for St. John's City West in the 2023 general election. And then, of course, from 4 to 5, it's Evolution Drive Time. And Evolution Drive Time is powered by DLP. He'll keep you company as you make your way home. And then we just want to tell you about what's happening on the most famous street in all of Antigua and Barbuda. It's not High Street, it's not Redcliffe Street, it's not Long Street.
Not Pope's Head Street.
It's not Pope's Head Street, it's not Newgate Street. It is Sir Vivian Richard Street over there in Ovals. They have Antigua's number one pet and animal supply store. They have supplies for all animals, dogs, cats, birds, horses, fish, and more. Glenn's Pet Paradise, give them a call, 462-0388, 462-0388. If you see Uncle Lennox over there, tell him Paul and Karen sent you. He'll sort you out. Karen?
Stay with us, folks. We're going to break shortly at the 1 o'clock hour. Very interesting topic here in terms of talking about voting. I think it's an essential topic because obviously there's going to be an election at some point. I mean, it has to be called at some point. The Prime Minister has made it quite clear that he's into the habit of calling early elections at the opportune moment. And of course, the opposition parties in Antigua and Barbuda, the Barbuda People's Movement, the Democratic National Alliance, the United Progressive Party, have been making motions, have been campaigning. Some may call it a soft campaign, some may call it just waiting for the right moment until things kick up. But many people are expecting an election here in Antigua and Barbuda, and it is essential that persons get registered. We here at News Corps Observer, regardless of who you're voting for or who you think you might vote for, we encourage all persons to get registered. Being registered to vote and voting is an essential part of a democracy. Many times I find that persons are a little disillusioned, well, not a little, but quite disillusioned with how government and politics works in Antigua and Barbuda, and for that reason they sort of take a very resigned approach. They sort of step back from the entire thing.
It ought not to be so.
Yeah.
You have to be in it.
They sort of step back from the... Yeah, you're right. They sort of step back from the entire thing. But it's not perfect, but trust me, it's better than the alternative. There are many countries around the world where you don't have the ability to vote. But let's take a break.
This is Observer Radio, 91.1 FM.
This hour is brought to you by Battery Engineering. We know batteries inside out.
You're listening to the Voice of the People on Observer Radio.
Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio, 91.1 FM. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Paul and Karen, we're in the house. And Karen, before you introduce our special guest, you have some exciting news, don't you?
Of course, Paul. Are you looking for the best prices on the market for auto, home, and life insurance and funeral expenses? Well, guess what? Romeo Francis at ABI Insurance has you covered. Contact him at 484-6425 or WhatsApp at 727-2835 or email rfrancis@abiinsuranceco.limited. That's ltd.com. He'll answer all your questions. And while you're at it, don't forget to ask him about the Educational Endowment Policy, where you can get a minimum coverage of EC $25,000 to go towards your child or children's future studies. And for all you new homeowners, ask him about mortgages as well. That's Romeo Francis at ABI Insurance.
And we just want to remind you of the oximeters. We have them here. You're giving the gift of life. You can surprise a friend, a family member, a loved one with that special gift. They're going rather cheaply. We're on the 4th floor in the ABI building. You can step right up. There's a young lady here waiting to take care of you. You can also go up to the UPP branch office on the Potter's Main Road, just west of the Potter's Primary School. There's another nice lady there, and she can take care of you, so you need not come into St. John's. Give the gift of life, folks, the oximeters.
I welcome our two guests for this hour. Of course, we have with us Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, no stranger to Observer Radio, of course. In fact, both of our guests are no stranger to Observer Radio. But introducing first Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, she's with the Democratic National Alliance. She's currently, of course, the party's team leader in the constituency of St. Peter. She joins us on Zoom. I'll ask her to unmute her microphone at this point. We're happy to have her with us this afternoon. We had her with us not too long ago. We were discussing mental health because, of course, she's also a mental health advocate as well as being politically active. Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, I see you on Zoom. I see it's still muted. I'm not sure whether or not you may not be at your laptop now. Oh, I see you've unmuted. Good afternoon, Ms. Imhoff. How are you doing?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kieran, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, our pleasure.
We also have joining us Ms. Germaine P. Lewis. Ms. Germaine P. Lewis is a daughter of the soil, hailing from the small village of John Hughes. She's a permanent resident of the United States. Germaine P. Lewis is a journeywoman carpenter by trade who spent over 18 years in the field. Major projects she has successfully completed include the Sotheby's Action House, the Yankee Stadium, both located in New York, and locally the Gilbert Ecumenical Center for the Methodist Church. She also holds a degree in human services. As said before, she's no stranger to Observer Radio, and we know quite well that she is aspiring to run with the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party in the constituency of All Saints East and St. Luke. Good afternoon to you. She too joins us on Zoom. Ms. Germaine P. Lewis, how are you doing this afternoon? You will have to unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing, Karen and Paul?
Good afternoon.
I hope all is well, and the listening audience.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, I wonder if both of you might have had a chance just to listen to some of what was being said. There were a number of issues surrounding voting that were discussed in the last hour. We had the ABEC PRO, Ms. Elisa Graham, on, and of course from the Free and Fair Elections League, Bishop Ralston Jeffrey. But I wanted to get the perspective, we wanted to get the perspective, rather, of politically active persons from political parties as to the importance of voting. And so perhaps I could start with Ms. Germaine Lewis. Ms. Germaine Lewis, it's no secret that, there are many people who sometimes they just can't be bothered. They don't really see the need to go out and vote. There's another sort of category of persons who are sort of fed up with what they see as their options in Antigua and Barbuda. They're not happy with what anybody is really offering, and so they sort of resign themselves to staying home. They say, look, I can't be bothered with politics. I can't be bothered with the election. None of them good for nothing. So what would you say to a person like that? Particularly somebody, because I run into that quite a lot. Persons who say, look, I'm done with these politicians. I don't care what their color is. I'm just done with them. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, it's not fair for you to give up on your rights, because, I mean, knowing that we reside in a democratic system, it is not fair for you to give up on your rights to say that I am just going to deviate from not being a part of the electoral process. Again, everyone is not the same. Yes, you do get discouraged at times. As even on your job, sometimes you get discouraged, but yet still you don't give up, because maybe your boss may have did something that you don't like, a co-worker did something that you don't like. You're not supposed to give up, because it is your right to choose to do what is best. And it's not about self, it's about community. And if we look at it holistically, let's not think about it as individually. Let's think of it community-based, that we're helping each other to grow.
And what about the notion, of course, that some people died, blood, sweat, tears was shed for that right. So we ought to cherish it. What about that notion?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is true. Because for me to be one of the political candidates, I recognize that blood, sweat, and tears is what got me to where I am at today. My ancestors, let me focus on what they have done, and here it is, I can make a difference. So in my view, I can make a difference. So I said, let me go forward and try my best at making a difference. And persons should also consider it that way in making a difference in their community and in the constituency, and of course the nation.
Let's bring in Ms. Chaneil Imhoff. Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, on that question, and just before I let you answer that question, Ms. Imhoff, we can keep the phone lines open, can't we, Paul? Just to let persons call in.
Certainly.
So to let you know, of course, the call-in numbers, folks, 462-2911, 462-2912, 462-2913. Share your thoughts with us. You could share your thoughts on the current topic. You could interject something. Oh dear, somebody says I speak too quickly. Let me slow down. That is a complaint I get often. You can share your thoughts with us, folks. 462-2911, 462-2912, 462-2913. Those are the numbers to call if you want to share your thoughts on this topic, or if you want to interject anything on any issue whatsoever. Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, the issue of persons who say that they're just utterly fed up and they're not really happy with anything that's being offered, and so they're just not going to vote. What would you say to a person like that, Ms. Imhoff?
Well, Kieran, I'm glad you asked me that question, because I actually had this very same conversation with some young people maybe a week or two ago, where the general notion was, they're just not seeing it, and they don't think it makes any sense. And instead of, me trying to convince, I actually met that with a question. I would have asked, so what would it take for you to be convinced? What would you like to see? Because many times we look at this question from what we think would be an answer that would make sense, especially as politically exposed persons. I've been politically exposed since I was in primary school, So since maybe grade 4, grade 5, I've been politically exposed, but not everybody has that same experience or understands that same experience that I would have had growing up. So I often ask them, what would you like to see? And we've had varying answers. Some people want to see, us diversifying the economy. Some people want to see, this particular political party change their leadership, their structure. They want to see certain things. So normally when I get that response, I would ask, so what do you want to see? But if I were to answer as to why it is, important, even if you don't think that there's something out there that appeals to you, I think that being involved in a democratic process will change that, because you can't sit down and say, I don't see anything that I like, and not try to be a part of that change. Mm-hmm. Because if you really want change, that's what you really have to do. You have to get involved. Mm-hmm. And by getting involved, I don't mean you're getting up and being a candidate and running, but at least educating yourself on, our political history, etc. And once people actually do that, and they have a greater understanding of where we have come from and where we're trying to get to, they warm up to the idea of getting involved.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Now, Ms. Lewis, you putting yourself up as a potential candidate on the ABLP ticket in the constituency of All Saints East and St. Luke. What are some of the ideas that you have that you think can improve the lives of those in that constituency? And what do you see as some of the shortcomings there now, some of the challenges there now?
You will have to unmute, just to let you know. We can see you, but you're still muted.
Thank you. Yeah. Mainly, some of the challenges that I recognized in the constituency over the years is that we dwindled away from the community setting. It is no longer that we are a community, a body of people coming together. It is more so that we are dependent on more so the politicians. So here it is. I grew up in John Hughes attended the Sweets Primary School, and my family extended throughout the entire constituency. And I remember going from one village to the other, and it was always that camaraderie, that relationship building that kept us together, even today. And I said to myself, yes, there are the issues of infrastructure and so forth. And then I find that our young people, many of them may not have been, successful in graduating from school. So I said, the other outlet may be to have a trade school in that constituency where I am very versed and knowledgeable of, because me, myself, who I was an apprentice. That's how I started out in construction. And here it is, I was able to glean so much knowledge that I became a journey person, a journey woman in construction on many projects in New York City. So here it is, it would be one of my outlets to make sure even a trade school, yes, we do have ABIS and so forth, that we can assist. But again, in the constituency itself, our young people, I recognize there are so much that need to be done. Educational wise, in my constituency, there are just about 5 schools, 3 primary and 2 secondary. And I want to make sure I support the teachers and principals of these schools as much as possible in at least having what we called it was a pen pal type of relationship we had, that you could correspond with persons overseas and so forth. And, letting people know, letting the students know that there are more to just Antigua and Barbuda. Let's extend the search. Let's extend their mind, expand it to where that they can function enough, knowing holistically that it's not only about education. There is another outlet of entrepreneurship that is out there. There is blue collar working skills, plumbing and so forth, that to bring to the table. So there is so much to bring to the table, and I'm looking forward to doing so for the constituency of All Saints East and St. Luke.
On that note, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
Bell Lab Services, a medical laboratory that offers a wide range of services. Bell Lab is convenient in so many ways. It's quick, accurate, excellent quality control provided by professional medical technologists. Results are faxed directly to your doctor. Open Mondays to Fridays, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Bell Lab Services, Wood Center. Friendly, quick, and convenient in so many ways. Call 562-1391 for further information.
Your car ain't moving if your engine won't swing.
Battery Engineering. We sell the world's top battery brands because they last longer and are more reliable. AC Delco, Yuasa, and M-Track brands for automotive use. AC Delco, Trojan, and Lifeline brands for marine use. Don't let them fool you. Google their brands and find out what you're buying. Spend your money wisely. We have some of the best prices at Battery Engineering, insistent on truth in advertising. Located on Independence Drive, St. John's, Antigua. Telephone 268-461-1629 or WhatsApp 268-720-BATT or 2288. Battery Engineering. We know batteries inside out.
Battery power's what you need.
This is Observer Radio. This is Observer Radio.
You're listening to the voice of the people on Observer Radio.
Welcome back to Voice of the People, folks. Here on Observer Radio 91.1 FM, we're having a discussion about voting, and we're joined by Jermaine P. Lewis and Miss Chaneil Imhoff. They join us on Zoom. We do have a caller on here. Good afternoon, caller. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Good afternoon. What's on your mind today, caller?
Good afternoon. The girl Lewis, the lady Lewis, hit it right under the head. But our disadvantage and our Antigua disadvantage. Lester Bird and the Labour Party ruined that business of trade business in the country. When they introduced the Royal Antigua, they bring everybody from Italy, and nobody could get a job. One of the trade bands. Antigua was the leading trade country in this Caribbean, and everybody running behind the supervisor to get a job, and no job could be offered to Antiguans. And they further come back to build the reckless key. And the Italians was the main party that went to build this situation. Then they further go and build the Mount St. John's Hospital. And our Chinese was working up there. Nobody. He killed the trade business in Antigua.
Thank you so much, caller.
He and the Labour Party killed the trade business. Right now, all the young men are cut grass and they smoke.
Thank you so much, caller. We have another caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'm happy to hear a young lady from Jan Hughes is running for a constituency minister. Listen, I have to say this. I am proud of this young lady from Jan Hughes. My grandmother is from Jan Hughes. The Marine and the Mullins and the Marines. I am related to the Mullins and the Marines and Johnsons in Jan Hughes. Now I'm saying to myself, it's about time that Antigua get a lot of women involved in politics, because, you know, as far as I understand and see, the men's them are failing our people. So a lot of women need to take up. I was happy when Joan Matthias was with UNDP, when she was there. She's from Great Neck, coming close to Jan Hughes, and I was happy, proud of her. But I don't understand. I need to see more women get involved in politics, and this is something I want to talk about.
Thank you so much, caller. We have another caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller. What is on your mind this afternoon?
Good afternoon. I want to big up the two young ladies there from that come on your studio today. I want to say to the young lady from Alcint East in St. Luke, is there something there that, you know, people's rights to vote, and it's very important. Let me tell you this, my lady. We have to vote this time. This time, yes, wow, you know, are in a lot of problems. We have to get rid of the Labour Party government. Are in a spot of bother. I'm telling the people out there, go there and get registered. Lord, get rid of them once and for all. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much for weighing in. We believe we're staying on the phone lines. What's on your mind? All right, we lost that caller. Let's go back to our panelists, Karen.
Just, of course, let our listeners know, Ms. Jermaine P. Lewis and Ms. Chaneil Imhoff. Yeah, feel free to respond to anything that the callers have said.
Sure. I could respond to all. Firstly, I must say, currently I am overseas. And as I am overseas right now, I am in the process right now in speaking to the New York District Council of Carpenters and even the plumbers for us to start moving forward with assistant persons in CARICOM, mainly in Antigua thus far, in assisting us in having a training program in which we can train our students who are not educational, or maybe in the book, I should say book frame of mind, but they can be hands-on, more hands-on, in which, as one of the callers did share, that there was some issues that years prior in our history, there were a lack of trades, men and women here in Antigua, and persons were brought in from other countries to assist. That's what I noted in our history. And again, we dwindle a bit away from that. And here it is, I am saying, given the opportunity, I am willing and able to go forward and make sure we foster these relationships. And yes, coming from John Hughes, thank you for the caller for acknowledging that. But again, it's the entire constituency. I am looking to make sure that educational wise, trade wise, blue collar wise, that our people know that they have the support of a person who is willing to work on their behalf. It's because of what I have gleaned over the years, the knowledge I acquired, that I am bringing all of this. And it's a good thing I was raised in the United States, because what I bled in the United States in order for me to return to Antigua and bleed for my own country and for my own people. And that's what I am looking forward to do in the constituency. I am bringing you my genuineness, my heart desire to make sure our nation is going to remain one of the most vital nations in the Caribbean and throughout the world.
Ms. Imhoff, I feel free, of course, to respond to anything that's been said thus far, Ms. Imhoff, and even to share a little bit about your constituency if you so choose. Pivoting a little bit back to the voter issues, I'm wondering what you think about some of the issues we were discussing in the previous hour. For instance, the idea of putting a cap, a campaign finance reform, putting a cap on the amount that individuals and corporations can donate to a party or to a political cause, and also this issue that, of course, the Free and Fair Elections League has mentioned, that the declarations you make of what you receive are only after the writ of elections has been issued. So all throughout the various years, if persons are making substantive donations, that's not something that the law requires one to report. What do you think about that issue, the whole issue of campaign finance reform?
Well, in terms of campaign finance reform, before I left the Youth Parliament last year, that was actually one of the things that I was heavily focusing on, because having proper campaign finance laws levels the playing field. It definitely levels the playing field, and it gets us away from this very toxic cycle that we've fallen into in terms of how our elections are ran. Because one of the things, when you're ready to get into politics, you say, I'm really interested in running in this constituency or being involved. The first thing people look at you and ask you, oh, you have money? Not, what are your ideas? What do you think you can do to make a change? The money issue is the first thing that comes up. Because I think it would definitely level the playing field. And I think it's something that we need to look into seriously to ensure that the laws make sense, they have teeth, and that we can hold persons accountable. So where we have treating, where we have bribery, where we see clear-cut cases of this all the time, we need to really put our foot down as citizens and residents of this country to ensure that our elections are ran freely and ran fairly, right? And to go back to your earlier questions about, constituency-wise, I have a very unique constituency in the constituency of St. Peter, right? And St. Peter is the home of Barhamtown, which was actually the first capital of British Antigua and Barbuda. It's a fun fact that I always lead with. And I think that it is a crying shame that a community, a constituency that is rich with, so much history, so much talent, so much of everything, so many resources, has been the same way it was since I was a child, when I used to go to my grandmother's house for summer vacation or visit my aunts and cousins, etc. Some of the places look exactly as they were before, and some are worse now. So outside of, infrastructure, I think that similar to what Jermaine would have said, it is very important that we invest in technical and vocational skills, improving technical and vocational skills. For the DNA's Vision 2040, that plays a huge part in the education policy, because no two people learn alike. No two people learn alike. And where, you have these persons who are excellent with, as we call it here, bookwork, you have some persons who are literal geniuses when it comes to creativity and the arts. So that's why we're also focusing on developing the orange economy here as well, for creativity and the arts. We have to have a well-rounded population, and it starts within those communities. So ensuring that there are...
I was going to say, we do have a caller on. Sorry to pause you. We do have a caller. We want to take this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Not a problem.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Paul, good afternoon, Kiwan.
Hey, Trini, how are you?
Good afternoon to the lovely lady. I am wonderful.
Afternoon.
To Ms. Imhoff. Ms. Imhoff, what will make you believe that people will actually believe you now after you ran against Peter Red? You lost, and then you immediately switched sides. Why do you think people will believe in you in something like that? And my second question is to the lady from Old Road. I can't remember her name.
Ms. Jermaine P. Lewis.
Miss Peters. Will you be one, if by some miracle you got into Parliament, will you be one that will support legislation by having the police independent to investigate all the crimes committed by politicians, regardless of which side, and have them go to jail if the law sends them to jail? Those are my two questions.
Ms. Imhoff? Ms. Imhoff?
Ms. Imhoff, your response. And I will be honest with you, Ms. Imhoff. There was another message on the board that also raised that in terms of your candidacy.
Awesome. That is not a problem at all. That is not a problem at all. Thank you so much for the question. It's a question that I often anticipate, so it's never a problem to answer. Now, just to clear up some things, right? In 2020, I would have participated in the primary in St. Peter, which included myself, the current candidate at the time, Colin Isaac, and Savon Harriet, better known as Peter Reds. The primary came, the primary went, and throughout the process, because I'm not the type of person who is going to come on the radio or go on social media and air out any internal laundry. That's not my style. I prefer to communicate with the persons who I need to communicate with and let them know how I feel about the situation. I'd have let persons know how I felt about the situation very much long time before I decided to, submit my resignation, right? The resignation was not submitted immediately, as the last caller would like to intimate. My resignation was submitted literally months afterwards, and the decision to do so was one that came. It was not an easy decision. I gave about 13 to 14 years of my life, and that's more than half of my life, to the United Progressive Party as an organization. I believe in democracy and democratic principles. I didn't run to the DNA as any sort of last resort or anything like that, because the party's vision and principles align with mine. In my letter of resignation to the UPP, there's no bad blood. On my end, anyway, there's no bad blood. I would say that the vision that I fell in love with when I first was introduced to the organization is not the vision that they are executing right now. They've strayed very far from that, in my personal opinion. And, a part of why I had wanted to, participate in that primary and, of course, become the candidate is because, as I said earlier, if you want something to change, you have to try to be a part of that change. And that is what I was trying to do. Anybody who knows me from the organization knows that I'm a problem solver, and there's only so much that you can take as an individual before you have to say, you know what, maybe this is not for me, and I need to go someplace where I can actually grow, where ideas are being welcomed, where there's room for youth and their development. Because what we've had over the last few years, and not just with the UPP, but with political parties here in general, they do not value young people's input, their ideas. They have young people a part of the organization as tokens. It's just a lot of tokenism. Hey, look, we have a young person here, but you're not hearing that person, you're not seeing that person, and they're essentially being puppeteered by the older persons just to say, hey, look, we just want you here to say, you know, we have some young people, blah, 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 when it's not real.
Let me pause you, Ms. Imhoff. Let me pause you. Let me pause you because, and Miss Lewis, we will come back to you so that you can respond. But we have a caller on here. Good afternoon, caller. What do you want to share with us this afternoon?
Good afternoon, sir. First, Happy New Year to you, the staff, and best wishes to the prospective persons who are running for political office. But I'd like to use my time constructively and look at what somebody addressed, the campaign financing. Sir, my humble opinion, and campaign financing, and let's look at the political market. It goes at initiative. The candidate comes out on initiative, socio-economic issues, and they incorporate into what we call projects, programs, and plans, and execute them by building infrastructure and so forth and so on. Now, if my party have more innovative minds and more visionary, who can see things, who can plan and strategize, and the people in the community gravitate towards financially and support us financially, because we are going someplace with our plans, programs, and projects. While our opponents, sir, they are suffering from what we call the Rip Van Winkle syndrome. They're sleeping, they're fast asleep. Why should my party that have the vision and with this advancement to develop the constituency and the state should be hindered from getting adequate financial support from people who gravitate to us because we have a lot of sense and a lot of vision, while the others are fast asleep? We have to examine what we look at financial campaigning reduction. You just don't get on the bandwagon and say, finance campaigning because somebody go. No, you look at what you're selling to the public or what you're offering to your constituents, sir, versus what your opponents are offering, and people gravitate to you financially and support you. So I think financial campaigning is stifling, it's counterproductive, and that should not be on the table at all.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for weighing in.
Let's get the response of our guest to that. Ms. Jermaine P. Lewis, and of course, feel free to respond to anything else that has been said so far. But on that issue of campaign finance reform, I think that caller, and you'll correct me, Paul, if I'm wrong, but I interpreted what that caller said as he's not so much with the issue of campaign finance reform. He feels that person should be able to donate as much as they want to parties that they feel are better. As if the party is better, it stands to reason that they would get more donations. And so there shouldn't be some artificial limit placed on what they can receive. Did I interpret that caller correctly, you think?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, but I disagree with that premise. But let's go back to Ms. Lewis. And do you remember the question that was posed to you specifically?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
I thank the caller for sharing. What I can say, if there is, while in office and a person decide that they want to abuse the privileges that has been extended to them to be a part of that office, it is for the authorities to take whatever necessary measures they need to take once a person in office have abused their rights or abused the office in itself. That's what I find in a nutshell. And also I recognize on the Facebook board that someone state that I am in the United States right now and I am running. Just to make clarity, I traveled for a funeral for a person who was very dear to me, who was infected with COVID. And while I traveled, I made the necessary decisions to make sure that I utilize my time effectively. Also, I share with you, Karen, I placed in your email with the situation that transpired in the Bronx, just to segue a little bit, that persons from the diaspora here in New York who are in the Bronx or in any one of the boroughs can assist in giving from the Antigua and Barbuda diaspora.
Thank you so much. That just very briefly, that question of campaign finance reform, where do you stand on that issue? Many people would like to see a lot more rigid rules. I myself, in terms of campaign financing.
I do agree with rules and regulations. I do agree with that, and that's where regulations is the most important things that we have to guide us by. And let's say, you know, it is for the powers that be to have those regulations in place for us to be guided accordingly as politicians.
Do you support any particular campaign finance reforms in Antigua and Barbuda? Any particular reforms whatsoever?
No, I do not. I can say at this moment, I do not.
So you think our campaign finance laws as they are right now are serving us well?
To a degree they are, and at this time I can say I am going to hold strain on the views of the campaign finances and let the Electoral Commission and those who are in the position to regulate what we do as politicians to do the due diligence.
And Chaneil Imhoff, Parham is near and dear to my heart. I love going up there. I have some great friends up there. And one of the things about Parham is it's the beauty. And you mentioned, and you say it's one of the highlights of your speeches, you mentioned Parham's history as one of the first towns in Antigua and Barbuda. When you go on that main road in Parham, there's the minister's manse right there. It's still standing. And there are a number of structures along that roadway on both sides of the road. Any thought to getting people, perhaps people in the community, to see about restoring some of those old structures, those historic structures in Parham, and so that Parham can be more of a town where visitors, we will be proud of Parham, as well as visitors coming to Antigua and Barbuda might want to go and take a peek at Parham.
Right. It's excellent that you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I have a huge passion for. I have a huge passion for history in general. And I think that knowing your history is very important, and knowing where you're coming from can help you to get where you want to go. I know there are a few groups over the years who have been doing work within the community. Currently, they have Pabro, who has been, they've conducted quite a few activities, and I can see that the group is young, vibrant, and are very committed to, you know, beautifying and bringing back Parham to what it once was and what it can be, and even more. So I do believe that working together, even outside of especially outside of political spectrum, that we should, as, you know, members of the community, because I live about 5 minutes away from Parham right now, members of the community have to come together to ensure that the community that we live in, that we love, that we grew up in, that we respect, is a place where not only outsiders can enjoy, but the people who live there can also enjoy the beauty and the resources in the area. For instance, the marketplace, it does need a few repairs, etc., but that whole strip there has so much potential and can be and do so much for not just that community, not just the constituency of St. Peter, but the entire eastern portion of the island. Do you think I want to drive all the way from where I am to go into town every time to get something, and I can drive 5 minutes to Parham and get it and come back? I would love to be able to do that. I know a lot of people who reside on the eastern portion of the island, like I do, would love to be able to do that. And over the years, the opportunity has been missed. As you know, young people like to say, they fumble the bag when it comes to that portion of the island. It's not a village, it is a town, and it needs to be treated as such. And the people within the community and outside in the diaspora, etc., we know this, but the support is definitely needed to ensure that the community, the children in the community, the adolescents, the entrepreneurs, everybody in the community gets the type of support that they need to get the community where it needs to be for everyone, outsiders and residents, to enjoy.
Ms. Lewis, I wanted to ask you one question, and just to let our listeners know, the phone lines are open, folks. 462-2911, 462-2912, and 462-2913. We have to take a break at this moment, actually. We'll take a break and be right back.
Bell Lab Services, a medical laboratory that offers a wide range of services. Bell Lab is convenient in so many ways. It's quick, accurate, excellent quality control provided by professional medical technologists. Results are faxed directly to your doctor. Open Mondays to Fridays, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Bell Lab Services, Wood Center. Friendly, quick, and convenient in so many ways. Call 562-1391 for further information.
This hour is brought to you by Battery Engineering. We know batteries inside out.
Your car ain't moving if your engine won't swing.
Battery Engineering. We sell the world's top battery brands because they last longer and are more reliable. AC Delco, Uwasa, and M-Track brands for automotive use. AC Delco, Trojan, and Lifeline brands for marine use. Don't let them fool you. Google their brands and find out what you're buying. Spend your money wisely. We have some of the best prices at Battery Engineering, insistent on truth in advertising. Located on Independence Drive, St. John's, Antigua. Telephone 268-461-1629 or WhatsApp 268-720-BATT or 2288. Battery Engineering. We know batteries inside out.
Battery power's what you need.
AMW Welding and Industrial Supplies Limited has the widest selection of automotive hand tools in Antigua and electrical tools for contractors and hobbyists. Then there are cooking gas cylinders, regulators, hoses and fittings, welding equipment and supplies, sheet metal, body filler, primers, paints, air compressors, welding plants and welding rods, water filters and garden hoses and fittings. Call us at 462-4588. AMW Welding and Industrial Supplies Limited on Edward Street, Otto.
No matter where we may roam, Antigua and Barbuda is still home. And with 40 years of experience in nation building, we in the diaspora will continue to work together with our fellow citizens to uplift our country. Join us every last Thursday of the month for the Antigua and Barbuda Associations United show at 8:30 p.m. through 9:30 p.m. on Newsco Observer Radio 91.1 FM.
This is Observer Radio.
You're listening to the voice of the people on Observer Radio.
Welcome back to Voice of the People on Observer Radio 91.1 FM. It's 1:45 in the afternoon. Paul and Karen, we're in the house, and we just want to remind you of what's coming up on Connecting with Dave Lester Payne from 2 to 4. Alistair Thomas, the community activist and the UPP candidate for St. John's City West in the 2023 general election. And then from 4 to 5, it's Evolution Drive Time. And Evolution Drive Time is powered by DLP. He'll keep you company as you make your way home.
And I want to let the listeners know as well, the ICC Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup 2022. Calling all cricket fans, be there for the semi-finals and finals of the ICC U19 Men's Cricket World Cup West Indies 2022 here in Antigua and Barbuda. Get your tickets now. It's free. Go to www.u19cwc.com/tickets. That's www.u19cwc.com/tickets. we go right back into our discussion about voting, and of course it broadened into a discussion about more politics. I think we can wrap up with our guests here and perhaps leave 10 minutes of the show just if anybody wants to call in, offer some feedback. We'll read a couple of WhatsApps. Ms. Jermaine Lewis, I'll give you the opportunity to give us a final word before I go to Ms. Imhoff for the same thing. I did want to ask you, though, on the campaign finance issue. That is a sticking point for a lot of people. There are a lot of people in Antigua and Barbuda who are desirous of seeing campaign finance reform because they think that there's too much money that goes into the process of elections, and no party has really stepped up to deliver it. So, I mean, for instance, in a constituency like St. Peter, for example, you would have an individual like Mr. Asset Michael, who many persons know to be a philanthropist in terms of donations and in terms of being personally able to afford quite a bit of assistance to the constituents should they come forward and say that they require assistance. Is that the sort of thing? Is that not a concern for you that as an individual you may be up against someone who simply has the means to buy you out in terms of advertising, outbuy you in terms of paraphernalia, outbuy you in terms of material donations that they're able to afford and distribute to their constituents? Because many persons do this, and it does vary depending on what you have. And then there's the issue of the fact that as a candidate, you will be under pressure to get money for your campaign. And where do you get money, Paul? You get money from the business sector. And if a businessman comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to give you some money for your campaign, well, he's going to say to you, well, I'm going to give you some money for your campaign, but, later on I need you to support me in certain other ways. I mean, that's the reality of how politics has worked. It's a problem that many countries grapple with. So I was surprised when you said that you thought that our electoral laws were fine as they are.
Actually, what I stated was that the powers that be need to regulate. They're the one who are responsible for regulating our due process that needs to be done as it pertains to financing campaigns. And I will say, I mean, if it's whether someone have a little more than me, or I have a little more than them, it is not for me to go out and buy votes, but let my work prove itself in my constituency and in the nation. So again, I believe the main thing is for us to have regulations, and we do need these campaign finances regulations to be brought to the forefront so that one don't seem to get ahead of the other. And that's what I will say.
Very good. Ms. Chaneil Imhoff, your final word just to leave us out here.
Thank you so much, Kieran. I think you gave the perfect example in terms of the campaign finance and laws and why they are necessary. And I was listening earlier and I heard when Ms. Graham from Electoral Commission says that the registration in St. Peter is, quote unquote, heightened. This has been the norm in St. Peter for the last 4 electoral cycles. And I can say that because, as I said earlier, I've been in this game a long, long time. And I like to say things come full circle. I started with when Joanne Messiah was in St. Peter, and now I am here. So it's something that I have witnessed personally. And many persons have looked at me and said, you got to be crazy if you think that you can, make any sort of impact going up against this money. And that's all they talk about, this money, as opposed to what the ideas, etc. are. Because even the things that I mentioned earlier about, restoring the communities, those are things that the DNA is passionate about and fall within our, our idea of, having parish councils that will deal with these things to decentralize government a bit. Because the system that we have right now it was not meant to last. And we are very, very, very passionate about ensuring that the system itself changes, because nothing will happen unless our system changes. And I just like to close with, a quote that we don't know where it's from. I don't know where it's from. I've heard it recently. I've heard the Madam President use it. If you want change, don't flip a coin. That means do not stick with, the options that have always been given to you, that they just flip and flop and flip and flop, who have failed you over and over and over again. It's time for something new, something fresh, something dynamic. And, change is something that is literally inside of your DNA. Thank you.
All right.